Kickass Switch, putting the K in magic. I'm Joanna DeVoe, and you are watching another episode of Every Which Way. This time featuring my friend, psychic tarot reader and astrologer, Audrey Alison. She also happens to be my neighbor, which we got to talk about in this conversation, so it's got a little extra flavor. Super interesting stuff, super interesting woman, super interesting conversation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Here's Audrey Alison. Hi, Audrey. Welcome to Every Which Way.
Hi, Joanna. Thanks for having me.
Yay. Hi, neighbor. I can't believe we were neighbors for 12 years. We never knew each other.
I know.
So
There are no coincidences.
I know, it's so interesting. And I'm excited to have you toward the end of this month that I've done here with the tarot theme, because you work with tarot in a really interesting way. And I thought it'd be fun to add like another flavor to it, because you are a YouTube astrologer. I mean, you're an astrologer, but you have a great YouTube channel, and you always incorporate tarot into your readings. So I would love to hear why you do that.
Of course. It's interesting when this creative idea manifested through me. I really didn't know how I was going to approach the channel, but before I was ever an astrological advisor, I was reading the tarot. I was reading tarot for 20 years, and I was only going by a referral basis. And I just was inspired to promote myself. I had never had a website, and I've always been interested in astrology, and registered for the American Federation of Astrologers course online, and just thought if I could do what I do naturally with the tarot and incorporate my knowledge of astrology, I could have a unique little niche here on YouTube. Because at the time, in August of 2013, there weren't a lot of people doing both astrology and tarot, at least from my Googling experience. But I thought, let's try it. And I think it's generated a great interest, a great buzz.
Yeah.
So it just felt natural to me to incorporate both, because I love both so equally. But it was cool.
You have a very cool vibe. Like when you said natural, I was thinking, and that's kind of your vibe too. You have a very easy, laid back. It's informative, all your videos, but it's a nice chill vibe. It's a nice thing to tap into to get the scope for the month ahead and just be like chilling with Audrey.
I wanted to give a really laid back approach, and I didn't want a lot of smoke and mirrors. I just wanted to be myself, because with my clients, I feel like I have a good rapport with them because I am myself in the readings. I'm not pretending, and I'm not trying to be something other than just the reality of a messenger of the cosmos.
So were you reading tarot before you learned astrology then? So do you consider yourself a tarot reader first, or did they just sort of create this marriage and a new thing in your mind?
That's interesting. I do consider myself a tarot reader first, but astrology was attractive to me at a very young age. At the age of 4, I started reading about astrology. So it's always been incorporated into my life. And I was always one of those little girls that was talking about, being a Gemini, or, oh, what's your sign? And it's been a calling for me, both areas equally. But yeah, I mean, the tarot is something I never had to really take a course on. It was just innately a part of who I was, and I just learned them very quickly and established a relationship with the cards very quickly.
It's taken me years. I feel like I think what's great about tarot is there's always something new to learn. It's an ongoing conversation, so I never get tired of it. It just continually reveals things, and you have those great aha moments, which is what I personally love about it.
Yeah, you can never, that's a great point. You can never really learn enough, because the cards are constantly changing depending upon where they fall in the spread next to other cards, and the definitions, when you're a medium as well, if you channel, you get new information with the same card for other people. So it's definitely forever changing.
I wanted to ask you about that because you have listed on your website, it doesn't say tarot reader, it says psychic tarot reader. And I thought that was an interesting distinction. So,
Right.
And I know that you're very psychic, so I thought that would be fun to talk about too, and interesting.
I'm so excited to talk about it because I almost feel like this is my coming out party. I don't talk a lot about it often, but I think the distinction in why I labeled myself a psychic tarot reader is because I'm not just giving straight definitions of the cards. In my mini tarot tasters, what I call my forecast readings, yes, I go over the individual definition of the cards, but I'm an empath, so I get messages with the tarot, depending on what client I'm reading for. The definitions can change. They can they can vary. They can be influenced by other cards.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm empathic, and I use my ability to hear what specific messages I may be getting for people. And then, obviously use the definitions of the tarot as well, but it's a psychic reading. It's not just a tarot reading. So yeah, I like to call it that.
So people do that over the phone? Like they can...
I do all my readings over the phone. Yeah, it got to a point back in 1998 where I stopped doing in-person readings because of how I was booking, and it's a quicker process to be on the phone. And globally now, with YouTube being such a vast venue, you can't read for people in person as much. They're all over the world. It's a global business.
Well, when did you first realize you could do that and have that empathic connection and have a psychic connection to someone on the other side of the world? Like, were you freaked out when you first tried? Like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. Did you think you needed to be in the presence of the person?
I've never needed to be around someone in order to read them. I've gotten impressions of people my whole life, but I did have some practice working on an 800 psychic line a decade ago, where I was, working. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name of the company, but it's a very popular psychic hotline. And you get grounded very quickly with people on the other end of the phone. And it's a hectic pace, which I did not like, because you never know what's going to happen or when your phone's going to ring, but you have to be on in your ability to get information quickly about someone that you're not visibly seeing. But, some psychics, they don't need articles of clothing. I don't let anyone touch my cards. I don't need you drawing cards for me. But I don't mind if, however, people have a different approach. Whatever's comfortable for them is great for how they read. But for me, it's almost like my relationship with my guides and my cards is the relationship. It's not necessarily with me and the client. I'm an interpreter. I'm a messenger of the cards and the stars.
I wonder, do you feel like you got stuck on open, having to be, on call all the time? Do you feel like, did you have to learn psychic protection? And I mean, because if you're just having to be on call and just at a moment's notice do a reading for someone, it's like, this isn't brain surgery. Oh, wait, it is,
That's so interesting. I have my hematite with me right now for my protection and my grounding. I've got, my amethyst, my clear quartz. Salt baths are a regular adventure for me as far as protection. I didn't like working the hotline for that very reason. I like scheduling my clients now, having advance notice of who I'm talking to and at what length of time. Maybe I'm a little type A personality. I like the control of the way this business is structured, and I like having autonomy over the business.
Yeah.
The hotline didn't work well with me because I found I was not protected. It was like people are draining and calling, and and testing you. It's not really about a genuine reading as much as let's see if she's a fake, or let's see if she know if I can trick her. It's very bizarre energy.
I think it's a kind of qualifier that you went through that. It's like a cleansing by fire process where you have to it trained you in a way, I think. And hearing you say, oh, I stopped reading for people live in 1998 again, too, is just like, wow, this woman's been reading for a really long time. She's been in the trenches of it, like the worst of the worst, and hung with it. And I think that's a great testament to you being a qualified reader when now anybody can just start a YouTube channel. Like, people get their first deck of cards and they get so excited. And then they start offering, readings, and they open up shop. And I don't know. I don't begrudge them that, because I see the innocence and excitement in it. But at the same time, it's great to know there's people like you out there.
I thank you for that, and I completely understand, because a true calling in this path happens at a very young age, or it can happen later, but you work with it for long periods of time. There's nothing about me that's an amateur when it comes to the tarot, and I don't mind patting myself on the back because of those trenches that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. Sticking with this craft for so long, it's a responsibility. And it's like the Ten of Wands in the tarot. Sometimes it's a burden that you carry on your back, because you're in a very delicate position with other people entrusting you in that position. And yes, I've been doing this. I've been around for over 4 decades, and half of them I've been invested in this craft. And I've only just recently advertised 2 years ago. August of 2013 was when I broke out and got a website and took the leap of faith to do this without keeping it a secret. There was something very secretive about reading and not advertising, where I could still get away with being Audrey and not that other side of me at times. But now I'm full on exposed.
And that's how I found you, which is so crazy. I won't go into the whole story here, but to make a long story short, we literally have lived back to back for 12 years. We live in a largely Mexican/Armenian neighborhood. So when I found out, okay, there's a blonde woman who makes YouTube videos, who talks about tarot, and we have a lot of similarities going, I was like, that is so wild. And then when we met in person, it just kept going. It's like, we're the same exact age, and we just sat there forever just going,
3 hours. Hung out at that
diner. Stop talking. And I bring this up for a reason, not just because that's really crazy and cool and interesting, but also I had a psychic moment with you that I haven't told you about yet. So I think this is really funny. We were done with our breakfast, and we had sat there and talked forever, and we were saying goodbye in the parking lot, and you're like, do people call you JoJo? I feel like I want to call you JoJo. And I was like, no, not really, only my dad. And my dad really only started doing that in recent years. He'll be like, JoJo. And nobody else does that. And I don't even know if I would let other people get away with it. And then that day, my son started messing with me. And now it's a thing, calling me JoJo. Hey, JoJo. It's like, don't call me that. And we've had this ongoing now, gag where he just won't stop. And because he thinks it's funny. He's like,
that is funny.
Only Grandpa calls you that, and I'm not Grandpa. And I just thought that was so funny, because it was that day that he started doing that.
That is trippy. Yeah, I have this overwhelming urge to call you JoJo. And that's not a name I ever really use, but I'm probably just picking up on a premonition of what was to come, maybe, because I don't think I've called you JoJo since, but Joe, I definitely say.
Yeah, a lot of people call me Joe. Well, I thought it was interesting because we talked about dad energy and stuff, and that kind of I was sandwiched between my dad and my kid with that one, and I thought that was pretty fun and cool. So.
That is very cool.
Another thing that I really want to talk to you about, I know your fans already know that you talked about this, but for people who don't know, you did a really interesting tribute in your last batch of videos that I want to say last year sometime I heard Eric C. Dune, the artist who created the Tarot Illuminati, which is my personal go-to deck.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we always need to say Rider-Waite-Smith in reverence and honor to the artist who created that deck. And so I started, it took me a long time, and I still feel kind of clunky, like adding that third word on, but I try my best to do it. But I didn't know why that was important, except for you just give props to the artist that, you know, drew or painted all 78 cards.
Right.
And then when you told, I'm going to ask you to share that with people so I don't blunder it horribly, maybe just the Cliff Notes version.
Sure.
When you shared that, I was like, oh my God, I will never say Rider-Waite again. I was like,
I know. You know, I received this deck in New Orleans. I purchased it, but I say received because it spoke to me. It was just sitting in this case in Marie Laveau's shop in the French Quarter on Royal Street, and it was the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And Pamela Colman Smith, there was a card in the deck that came with this 78 card deck, and it touched me so much that by the time I was reading just these 3 paragraphs, I was bawling. I was emotionally distraught and connected with the deck because they just talked about how this woman who was born in England in 1878, February 18th, I believe, or 16th, 1878, Pamela Colman Smith. She traveled between Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York, and Kingston, Jamaica, and she had a calling. She was a psychic. She was artistic. She joined the Order of the Golden Dawn under Aleister Crowley in 1903, and studied with a lot of mystics. And she was an illustrator and an artist, and that's what she studied at Pratt. And Arthur Waite called on her to illustrate these 78 cards. That was his concept, the Rider-Waite deck, but she's the artist behind the deck, and they just talked of her life of loneliness, how she never married, she never had kids. I identified with that, and I think a lot of readers would, because this industry can get very lonely. And it is hard to meet and date and relate to people when you do this kind of work. And she lived such a sheltered life, and they said that she died alone and she didn't have any heirs, and she just lived with a roommate in a flat in London. And it was just so touching because she died feeling that her works and her life didn't get fully expressed. And then after her life, people were touched so much. The Rider-Waite-Smith deck is a deck that most readers either start on or have as their top 10 collection. And it was just such a, it was very touching and heartfelt story that I started crying in the readings as I told it. But I didn't edit it. I didn't cut it out because I wanted to keep it real and honor her. And I didn't even realize that when I was recording it, it was the day she passed, September 18th. And I'm just remembering that now. But yeah, it was no coincidence either. And I felt her presence often in my house since that experience.
Wow. Didn't you say, too, that she died broke and unacknowledged as an artist as well?
Yes, they said she was penniless and obscure. And I thought, geez, I mean, it gave me chills because she deserved accolades at the most. I'm seeing the 6 of Wands, the torch going to her, being honored and recognized for her artistic and creative endeavor that she didn't get props or kudos for, because you do hear about Arthur Waite and then the publishing company Rider and Son, which is where they get Arthur Waite or Rider-Waite from. But you don't hear Smith in there, and she's the artist behind all of the depictions.
And that's
So yeah, we have to always say Rider-Waite-Smith.
I agree, and that is a time-consuming process. I thought perhaps too, besides being a reader yourself, that it might have resonated because you're an artist and you're a musician, and I am those things as well. I love, I make things, and that's a bit of a horror story because there is something about being an artist, even if you're Emily Dickinson and you're like locked away. It's a conversation, and to just be talking to yourself and to die never getting someone like, talking back at you. Hopefully wherever she is, she knows that like her work is being enjoyed at such a level, like rock star level now.
Right. And I feel the same way. Just giving her energy. Because I do believe in the afterlife, and I definitely believe in the spirit world that exists after we pass, because I've seen way too many things to not believe that. But yes, like you, we both found out in that lunch, we're artists, we're both musicians, we create. To live your full path and not feel that accomplishment, I feel is it's the saddest thing that I had heard. Mm-hmm. Getting emotional again. Yeah, I mean, people have disease, and there are sadder or more sad tragedies, but that to me was very raw, and it was chilling to read about. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to honor her, and I'm going to take 5 to 10 minutes out of these readings to do so, regardless of. I got some negative feedback for that. I got positive feedback, but people can be harsh on YouTube. They don't want to hear about other people. They want to hear about what's going on in their lives.
What's in it for me? Okay, next. Until I see myself reflected back at myself.
Totally. I remember receiving someone on Leo commented in all caps, "Who's this woman you're talking about? And let's get to the forecast." And I was like, wow, people, let's calm down. Let's give credit where credit's due.
I think that sense of entitlement is fascinating about our culture now that we have. I'm wondering how this has affected your business too, because we give and give and give for free. And people expect it to be free. And then some people actually think that they can dictate what you create. There starts to become a sense of entitlement. I'm entitled to you, and I'm entitled in that I want you to deliver it to me in the way I want it to be delivered. And it's just interesting and fascinating. I love giving. I love creating content, but that is something I've noticed.
Just talking about this right now feels so empowering, because it is unbelievable to me that when this manifested through me, when this creative process decided to be birthed, I wasn't doing it for anyone else other than myself. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a great tool to create a business and have global advertisement, but the readings that I did just by referral were good enough for me. So when I create these videos, and at the timeline in which I see fit to publish the videos, that's all coming through me. But I could not understand you more when you say the sense of entitlement, because people are very demanding. And the 20 minutes that I provide for each astrological sign each month is the free reading. But I don't give free readings outside of that, and haven't since the early 90s. So I do get contacted on different medium streams, my website, Facebook, YouTube, Skype, and people are trying to contact me for free services. And for all the requests that I do get, I can't provide that for everyone, and I won't do it for one person if I can't do it for all of them. And then I wouldn't be able to pay rent. So, because this is my sole profession as an artist now, just being creative, I'm making a living off of my creativity and my calling. So there are no free readings with Audrey Alison.
Good to know, people. Although I will say, I've always been fascinated by people that do each of the signs every month. And I've always wondered, like, do you get to like the 10th sign and you're just like, I have nothing left to give? Because you're very present, you're very calm, and you do it outside. And I know our neighborhood gets very noisy, so kudos to you for that. Which you're not in. You're in New Jersey, which we should talk about too. But how do you sustain that, I don't know, that vibe, your connection? How do you sustain that to get out 12 different videos every month?
Sometimes I have to tune it out. It's not effortless. Our neighborhood, as you know, I think it was an Aquarius forecast this coming November that I'm going to put up. You hear someone pushing a shopping cart through the alley, just the manic energy of the neighborhood, because it is city life. LA, we are in the city, so you can't stop what's happening. But I just want to keep it real, so I'm not editing that out. I'm just like, listen, people, I'm outside and I connect with nature, and I think that helps me when I do those forecasts, being outdoors. A few times when there was some inclement weather, I remember being inside and I had to stop after 6 videos and just do it again the next day, because it's an 8-hour process. It can be 6 to 8 hours of channeling and information, and I take a lot of breaks. It's a process. I'm still learning how to do all of it. So in no way do I consider myself a professional when it comes to the recordings, but I do just want to keep it real. I want to just try to be genuine with the process.
I think people really appreciate that authenticity and feeling like they're just sitting on your patio with you getting a reading, because just everything's so glossy and corporate now that the internet is a nice foil to that. It's a relief. It feels good. And I don't think you need to get more professional in your videos. You are professional, and it's just nice to feel like I'm hanging with Audrey for the next 20 minutes or whatever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about your energy. It's just, you're not hiding anything. There's not a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's just a natural process. What you see is what you get. And feel free to move on if that kind of vibe doesn't suit you. I totally get it. Some people might not resonate with that, but again, I'm doing that for me because it had to come through me, and I'm not so much concerned anymore. When I first started, I was very concerned with, how did that come across? And I used to watch every video from top to bottom. Now I'm like, no. Like, it is what it is. I'm not trying to run anyone else's race.
Yeah. So how is Jersey? What's it like there now weather-wise? Are you actually having seasons? Because we don't get very many of those here.
Maybe you could see behind me a little bit. It's full-on autumn in Jersey on the East Coast today. It's raining and it's about 50 degrees. The leaves are changing. It's beautiful. I was born and raised here, and with the freedom of this job, I'm getting to spend half of my time with my mother in the East Coast and half my time in California. So it's still a process. I don't know where I'll end up, but I'm just going through the motions. I came here for some R&R, and I'll probably be here for the remainder of 2015 through the holidays, because I've never spent both Thanksgiving and Christmas with my mother since I left Jersey 21 years ago, half my life ago. So I'm making up for some lost time.
That's going to be great. And you're going to experience like what we see in the movies, living in LA. You see like the leaves changing and then it's snowing at Christmas. And I'm like, I'm in my boxer shorts putting up my Christmas tree. It's so weird.
When I'm in LA for Christmas, when I don't make it back east, I don't even feel Christmassy, and I rarely decorate. I more celebrate Yule and the changing of the seasons, or the sabbats.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really a Christmassy kind of person, but when I'm in Jersey and it's a white Christmas, you can't help but to get that vibe. But California, it's almost like, oh, we're celebrating that again. ho, ho, ho. Let's just, it's 90 degrees out, you know? You don't feel very Christmassy.
It's kind of funky. I know that you have readings scheduled here, and I don't want to keep you too long, but I do have 2 questions before I let you go. One is, how do we find you? That's very important.
Perfect. I am at audreyalison.com, www.audreyalison.com. I also have a Facebook page, Audrey Alison Astrology and Tarot. But to book with me, it'd be best to go through the website because I do receive PayPal payments first prior to the reading as a confirmation and a commitment from the client's end. And then I get back to them and schedule with them within 2 to 3 days, depending on the schedule.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
The other thing that I ask everyone at the end of these interviews is, what is your tip for creating the kick-ass life of your dreams? You can incorporate tarot into the answer. You can answer any way you want, actually.
Okay, so repeat the question.
What is your one tip for creating the kick-ass life of your dreams? Living the dream.
Wow. I would say let go of your fears because they're keeping you furthest away from living that creative, kick-ass life that you deserve. So if you think of leaving your corporate day job, or think about what is binding you to not being happy, that's probably the one thing you have to let go of. So I just say, let it go. Let go of the fear that it won't work because life is happening to you. Or life is responding to you, responding to your energy. So be fearless.
That's great advice right now because Samhain is on the horizon here, and it's just a great time to release. Let go of things that no longer serve, lay it to rest, give it a funeral, do what you got to do. But it's a good time to do that work.
And on Samhain, we're having a grand water trine between all of the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. It's such a beautiful, nebulous day for release and for attaching yourself to a positive emotion. So Halloween's going to be spectacular this year, and the full moon's energy will be very present, like it is today.
Wow, that's a cool little extra juicy bit we got there on the end. And thank you so much for doing this. And
thanks, Joanna. Thank you, JoJo.
Much love to you. Peace.
Much love to you. Peace. Take care.